Okay, sweet. So John chapter 6, I'm going to read from the Message. And this is a big chunk, but I always find it sort of hysterical that we like to read a little bit of Bible and then talk a lot. We could probably do a lot of really good stuff from the ancient scriptures and think about what God actually said. John chapter 6 says this. After this, Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. Some call it Tiberias. A huge crowd followed him, attracted by the miracles they had seen him do among the sick. I feel like some of us should go to Israel sometime. Would you like to do that? I think it'd be fun to get a group of people at some point and go. Because when I read this and hear about the sea in Tiberias, I think about the time that I swam in the sea next to a bunch of Israeli special agents. I kid you not. It was like one of the weirdest experiences of my life. We got there for this tour of Israel. And the night that I got there, it was dark out. And go into the hotel, a buddy of mine, we're next to each other, go up to the lady who's running the desk and said, hey, the Sea of Galilee is right here, right? She's like, yeah, Sea of Galilee right here. Like, cool. So can we swim in it? She's like, yeah, you can swim in it. Like it's no problem. We can just go outside and swim in the Sea of Galilee. Yeah, you can swim in it. Cool. Is it safe? Yes, it's safe. Okay, cool. It's safe. We can swim in it. Yeah, there are soldiers. I'm like, soldiers? She's like, yes, they're practicing. I'm like, practicing? She's like, yeah. And then she yelled something over to this guy and he walked us over to this big gate. We couldn't see over it. And they were yelling back and forth in Hebrew to each other. And then all of a sudden this gate opens up and there's this Israeli soldier standing there. And he walks us over to the water and says, swim. And I looked at my friend like, I don't know if I want to anymore. It's super weird now. I'm not sure I want to swim anymore. And there was all this night vision goggles and equipment and weapons all over the shoreline. And so we walk into our knees and we're standing there with this guard who's got an Uzi. We're so not many people swim here, do they? And he's like, no, not many people. And we're like, how many people have swam here? And he's like, actually, you guys are the first. And then we said, so who are you? And he's like, we're a group of special agents that we go over enemy territory and rescue helicopter pilots that got shot down over enemy territory. So we do some, SEALs, right? We do special operations. Anyway, moving on, we should all go together. John chapter 6, he says, when he got to the other side, he climbed a hill and sat down, surrounded by his disciples. It was nearly time for the feast of Passover kept annually by the Jews. When Jesus looked out and saw that a large crowd had arrived, he said to Philip, where can we buy bread to feed these people? I love that. You've got Jesus, who everyone's he knows everything. He's God. He knew when people were going to betray him before they betrayed him. But you see Jesus thinking about food as an afterthought. Oh yeah, we should probably feed these people, right? They look really hungry. They're going to start getting angry if we don't do something. But he says this to stretch Philip's faith. So Philip had to be challenged to go, what do we do here? He already knew what he was going to do. Philip answered, 200 silver pieces wouldn't be enough to buy bread for each person to get a piece. One of the disciples, it was Andrew, brother to Simon Peter, said, there's a little boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but that's a drop in the bucket for a crowd like this. Jesus said, make the people sit down. There was a nice carpet of green grass in this place. They sat down, about 5,000 of them. Then Jesus took the bread and, having given thanks, gave it to those who were seated. He did the same with the fish. All ate as much as they wanted. When the people had eaten their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the leftovers, so nothing is wasted." They went to work and filled 12 large baskets with leftovers from the 5 barley loaves. The people realized that God was at work among them in what Jesus had just done. They said, "This is the prophet for sure, God's prophet right here in Galilee." Jesus saw that in their enthusiasm, they were about to grab him and make him king. So he slipped off and went back up the mountain to be by himself. I love the elusiveness of Jesus. They're like, everybody had grand plans for him, and he just kept like disappearing act, just sayonara, he'd take off different places. In the evening, his disciples went down to the sea, got in a boat, and headed back across the water to Capernaum. It had grown quite dark, and Jesus had not yet returned. A huge wind blew up, churning the sea. They were maybe 3 or 4 miles out when they saw Jesus walking on the sea, quite near the boat. They were scared senseless, but he reassured them, "It's me. It's all right. Don't be afraid." So they took him on board. In no time, they reached land, the exact spot where they were headed. The next day, the crowd that was left behind realized that there had been only one boat and that Jesus had not gotten into it with his disciples. They had seen them go off without him. By now, boats from Tiberias had pulled up near where they had eaten the bread blessed by the master. So when the crowd realized he was gone and he wasn't coming back, they piled into the Tiberias boats and headed for Capernaum, looking for Jesus. When they found him back across the sea, they said, "Rabbi, when did you get here?" Jesus answered, "You've come looking for," and I love this, like, "you came looking for me, not because you saw God in my actions, but because I fed you, filled your stomachs, and for free." He says this, "Don't waste your energy striving for perishable food like that. Work for the food that sticks with you, food that nourishes your lasting life, food the Son of Man provides. He and what he does are guaranteed by God the Father to last." To that they said, "Well, what do we do then to get in on God's works?" Jesus said, "Throw your lot in with the one that God has sent. That kind of commitment gets you in on God's works." They waffled. "Why don't you give us a clue about who you are, just a hint of what's going on? When we see what's up, we'll commit ourselves. Show us what you can do. Moses fed our ancestors with bread in the desert. It says so in the scriptures. He gave them bread from heaven to eat." Jesus responded, "The real significance of that scripture is not that Moses gave you bread from heaven, but that my Father is right now offering you bread from heaven, the real bread. The bread of God came down out of heaven and is giving life to the world." They jumped at that. "Master, give us this bread now and forever." Sounds kind of like the woman at the well, like, "Give me that water that lasts forever." Jesus is going, "There's a bread that is going to totally satisfy you." They're like, "We'd like that bread. We'd like that water." Jesus is like, "It's me. Hello. The person who aligns with me hungers no more and thirsts no more ever. I have told you this explicitly because even though you have seen me in action, you don't really believe me. Every person the Father gives me eventually comes running to me. And once that person is with me, I hold on and don't let go. I came down from heaven not to follow my own whim, but to accomplish the will of the one who sent me. This, in a nutshell, is that will, that everything handed over to me by the Father be completed, not a single detail missed. And at the wrap up of time, I have everything and everyone put together upright and whole. This is what my Father wants, that anyone who sees the Son and trusts who he is and what he does, and then aligns with him, will enter life, eternal life. He's going, "I am life," right? Think about the other passage. "I am the way, the truth, and the life." I am the life. Eat my flesh, drink my blood, you live. Christ in you, the hope of glory. My part is to put them on their feet alive and whole at the completion of time. At this, because he said, "I am the bread that came down from heaven," the Jews started arguing about him. "Isn't this like just Joseph's son? Don't we know his dad? Don't we know his mom? How can he now say, 'I came down out of heaven'?" and expect everyone to believe him. Remember the other passage, a prophet is without honor in his own hometown. Jesus said, don't bicker among yourselves over me. You're not in charge here. The Father who sent me is in charge. He draws people to me. That's the only way you'll ever come. Only then do I do my work, putting people together, setting them on their feet, ready for the end. This is what the prophets meant when they wrote. And then they will all be personally taught by God. Anyone who has spent any time at all listening to the Father, really listening, and therefore learning, comes to me to be taught personally, to see it with his own eyes, hear it with his own ears from me, since I have it firsthand from the Father. No one has seen the Father except the one who has his being alongside the Father. And you can see me. Are you still with me? It's a big chunk, but it's worth it. It's all going to come together. He says this, I'm telling you the most solemn and sober truth now. Whoever believes in me has real life, eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna bread in the desert and they died. It's like it was patchwork, right? I fed them for a day. They still died. I healed people of cancer one day. 3 weeks later, 2 years later, they got some sort of liver disease. Eventually, everybody ended up dying. All my miracles are patchwork, but you believe in me, you never die. The bread that I present to the world so that it can eat and live is me, this flesh and blood self. At this, the Jews started fighting among themselves. How can this man serve up his flesh for a meal? It's like cannibalism. What is he talking about? But Jesus didn't give an inch. Only insofar as you eat and drink flesh and blood, the flesh and blood of the Son of Man, do you have life within you. The one who brings a hearty appetite to this eating and drinking has eternal life and will be fit and ready for the final day. My flesh is real food and my blood is real drink. By eating my flesh and drinking my blood, you enter into me and I into you. In the same way that the fully alive Father sent me here and I live because of him, so the one who makes a meal of me lives because of me. This is the bread from heaven. Your ancestors ate bread and later died. Whoever eats this bread will live always. He said these things while teaching in the meeting place in Capernaum. Okay, I'm going to pray and then we're going to talk about this together. I think it's really significant stuff. God, help us to take in the stuff that you said, Jesus. You have invited us into relationship with you. As we're recently were singing knowing you. As we're invited into life, and life isn't that you point us to life. You are life. You're the source of life. You created us. You love us, and knowing you, we find our purpose. God, help us to really understand what you meant in this story, what you were saying to your followers and observers, all the people that happened to be there at that time. And you were feeding people and healing people and walking on water. We love you and we thank you for the opportunity to sort of process this stuff together. Amen. All right, so let me ask you this: when is the last time? Well, first off, use your reactions. You can put your hand up. How many of you would say that you're a Christian?
Only 4 of us.
Okay. It's like okay. You'd say that you're a Christian. Okay. You got clappies and hand raises. Okay. Now let me ask you this. When is the last time that you would say enjoying Jesus was the highlight of your day?
Today.
Enjoying Jesus is the highlight of your day. So you've got essentially a story where Jesus is feeding people, taking care of their physical needs, and the people wanted to use Jesus. Like, these Roman oppressors are awful, so we want you to take out Rome. Or, Jesus, we're really hungry, we want you to feed us. And I think that so many of us approach our faith that way. God, what can you do for me? I'd like you to take care of these needs or fix these things or help me overcome this obstacle. And so many people think that the point of Christianity is the Christian life, not Christ. Jesus invites people not to get satisfied by his gifts, but to be satisfied by his presence. And the gifts are like added benefits on the side, sure. But how many people use God but don't enjoy God? How many of us go through life wanting the bread or the manna or to have Rome taken out, but yet we don't enjoy the presence of God? I want you to think for a second. Remember the prodigal son story? The prodigal ran off and he like wild living and just went nuts. The older brother stayed home. I'm going to tell you that it represents two sort of people in the world. One is the person who loves all of the gifts of God. Man, I love the wine and I love the sex and I love the money and I'm running off with all the good gifts that God has given humanity. But I'm not enjoying God. I'm just enjoying his gifts. I'm using God for the stuff that he gives, right? That's the prodigal, is enjoying and almost like worshiping the gifts of God, but not the giver of the gifts. Like, I want your stuff, God, but I don't want you. That's what the prodigal said to the father, is just give me my share of the inheritance. And he ran off, basically saying, Dad, I wish you were dead. I just want your stuff. I just want your stuff. I don't really care about you. I just want your stuff. And I think that there are so many people, even in the church world, that want to use God for the stuff that he would give, for family, for health, for a job, for whatever it is. We want to use God for the stuff that God would give us. We don't actually love God, like God, enjoy God. You've got Jesus who's right there present with people, and he's going, you guys just want my bread. You don't know me. You don't like me. You don't desire communion with me. You just want to use me. You love my power, so you think I could take out Rome, right? That's a prodigal son. The other example would be the older brother, right? The older brother is, I think, representative of religious people. And religious people aren't thinking about God, they're thinking about themselves. They want to justify themselves. The older brother was concerned with, I'm doing the right thing. I'm saying the right thing. I'm a good guy. I'm approved. It's like the guy standing next to the sinner in the temple saying, God, I thank you. I'm not like that guy. I'm righteous. I'm good. I'm holy. I'm taking the right steps. I'm doing the right things. He's not enjoying Jesus either. He's focused on himself too, but in a different way. He's trying to make himself right with God by his own performance. Both of them are not enjoying relationship with Jesus. The religious person focused on themselves, their own performance, their own works, their own effort. The irreligious person oftentimes focused not on the giver of the gifts, but on the gifts themselves. That's where idolatry comes from, is that we suddenly worship not God, but all of the things that he's given us. And as soon as something that God has given us goes from being a gift to a God, it'll destroy us. Food is great. It's a gift of God. I love food. I'm a foodie. I love food. I love to eat. I love to talk about eating. Some of us even like to watch it on TV, right? We just love food. But as soon as food becomes a God, is that good? It's not good, right? Food's great as a gift. It's not great as a God. Sex is great as a gift. It's not great as a God, right? Alcohol can be good as a gift, but not good as a God, right? Work can be good as a gift, but not good as a God. And so as soon as you take a thing that was given by the great gift giver and turn it into a God, it will most assuredly destroy you. It'll cause unhappiness, not joy and pleasure, right? So Jesus has invited these people into relationship with himself. So many of us have never really delighted in Jesus. In fact, we end up wanting God to give us the stuff we want, asking God for things. I can't even tell you how many times I've fallen into the trap of being like, God, can you fix this? Could you help this succeed in my life? Could you heal that? Could you give me clarity on this decision? And I felt like God saying, Mike, is it cool if we just hang out? Can we just enjoy being together? Is that all right? To which I'm like, I guess, maybe, right? How often do we want something from God, but we don't want God? And so there Jesus is saying, no, it's not about the bread that I'm going to give you. I am the bread. I am the goal. I am your life. I am your hope. Like, the answer isn't the stuff I'm going to give you. The answer is me. I'm giving you myself. I want you to love me and to enjoy me and be in a relationship with me. I want us to be able to go, you know what? The highlight of my day was I just really enjoyed the presence of God. I really enjoyed the presence of God. I think about yesterday. I've really been sort of busy lately and felt like I wasn't getting enough time with my son. And so I woke up thinking, I got to spend some time with this boy. Like, not because there's a particular activity that I necessarily want to do, but a person that I want to be with, right? So I'm going, son, why don't we go play basketball? And we went down to the park after a little bit of prodding because he just wanted to play on his phone and play Roblox and, online games and stuff like that. So I'm like, son, why don't we just go down to the park, play basketball? We go down to the park. We played for like 2.5 hours, just shot hoops, hung out, laughed, kicking the ball, teasing each other. He's chucking it at me when I'm not looking. We're just having a great time, right? We leave that, we come home. Then when we get home, we're playing Nintendo Switch. We're racing with each other. Guys, it's not like I got up that day, like necessarily wanting to play basketball or play Switch or watch a Disney kids movie or something like that. What I wanted was the presence of my son, right? And this is what Jesus is getting at when he's talking about what I want is you. What I want you to want is me. The lover is less concerned about the activity than they are concerned about the company, right? It's not necessarily that I want a particular activity or a particular event or a particular thing we're going to do or place we're going to go. It's about the fact that I want you. I want time with you. I want presence with you. I want to enjoy this relationship with you. I almost get this image like we're coming into Elf season, right? Movie Elf. And I feel like it's almost symbolic of the church that you've got a community of people sitting around and there's Santa Claus who comes up in front of all the kids. Remember that scene in the movie? Santa Claus comes up, an elf is working in the store and he's going, Santa, I know him, right? He's all excited. And I almost want to look around oftentimes in church circles and just see someone that's like, Jesus, you're singing the songs, you're going through the motions, you're reading the stuff. I want to see someone that's like, Jesus, I know him. Like, I know him. He's my life. I'm excited about him. I want other people to know him. Jesus is like, we're in on each other. I know him. He knows me. We're close. We're tight. Like, it's that sort of journey, not like we're sitting down getting tips and tricks and teachings, but that there's a person that we know and that we sit with and that we're loved by and that we enjoy him and that he enjoys us. And there's relationship. He says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. If you remain in me, you live. But if you're separated from me, you wither, you die. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And he's saying, okay, you're essentially trying to create fruit in your life. But apart from me, you can't. And so you end up going over to Giant or Wise or Costco and buying fruit and taping it to dead branches. That's what you're trying to do. I want to find happiness. I want to find joy. I want to find peace, but apart from the source of life. And so we all tape fruit to the branches and try to fake it till we make it and try to create satisfaction apart from the source of life. And he goes, yeah, you know what? Enjoy me. And as an overflow of all that, you get all the gifts too. You get the bread, you get the wine, you get the laughter, you get the boats, you get the travel, the journey, the friendship, the relationship. But apart from me, you miss it all. You don't actually have it. And so that's what Jesus is inviting these people into. And I think that too often we, like the people that walked around with Jesus, are like, Jesus, if you could make this job thing work out. Or Jesus, if you could fix this health thing. Or Jesus, if you could just like get rid of that person that's a pain in the butt. Whatever it is, we're like asking Jesus for things. Or even, gosh, God forgive us, if there's any part of us that wants to make a difference for our faith, but we fail to enjoy Jesus. Has that ever been you? You're like, we want to reach people and make a difference and tell people about someone that we're not even enjoying. Is that a problem? But it's quite possible that you've got people out in the name of making a difference in the world that aren't actually enjoying Jesus. You know what's better is that you naturally share what you're enjoying. Right? You don't at the end of a movie have at the end of the credits, now go tell all your friends about this. It doesn't happen. Or after a great meal, now go tell your friends about this steak. No, you naturally say, dude, you gotta try this ribeye. It was awesome. It was amazing. I think part of our lack of sharing Jesus is because we lack enjoyment of Jesus. And when you're not enjoying a relationship with the one that you love, you're not going to naturally pass it on. And it's going to feel awkward and clunky and forced. And so we all need to pause, to break away, as Jesus invited his disciples. All right, there's a big crowd. I love them, but let's go climb up the mountain and get alone together. He broke away, as the crowds were demanding, give us more bread, knock out the Romans. Jesus is like, I think I need to go get alone with the Father and just enjoy this relationship. That we, in the same way, with all of the chaos of life, the busyness, the pressures, the family stuff, the drama that we deal with, need to break away and enjoy one who is the source of life. He says, I'll satisfy you. I'll give you what you need. You come rest with me. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden and tired, and I will give you rest. My yoke is easy, my burden is light, and you'll find rest for your soul. You'll be refreshed and restored and renewed. And then you go out not in a sort of posture of burnout and tiredness, but you go out fresh. You're not faking it, but you're alive. You're just like, guys, I got to tell you about this. Sort of like the woman at the well that's like, I got to tell you about someone who's just rocked my world. And people can feel the difference when you're like, hey, come to my church, versus like, I got to tell you this story. Like my life's been rocked. It's been turned upside down. I got to tell you about this. And there is a significant difference between the two. Prodigal didn't enjoy the father, wanted his gifts. Older brother wanted to prove himself, make sure he was right, doing all the right things. Both missed enjoyment of dad. Let's play ball together. Let's play games together. Let's eat together. Let's take a walk together, because it's not about eating. It's not about walking. It's not about Scrabble. It's about people. It's about the one that we love. It's about our Creator who deeply loves us. That's why it all comes down to love God, love your neighbor. It's all about relationship. Love the one who created you, the source of life, and then let that flow into the relationships of the people around you. Stop using God and enjoy God. Stop using people and enjoy people. And if you haven't, it's an invitation to that. Let's enjoy our Creator. We were made for relationship with God. God created us so that we would enjoy Him, delight in Him, and then enjoy each other. God, help us when we don't. Think about all these images of like manna. You're like, I drop bread from heaven, but I'm bread from heaven. Or just as the serpent was lifted up in the Old Testament when people were bit by the snake and they looked to the bronze serpent and found life, like you are the one that was lifted up for us. Or drink from this well and you'll thirst. Drink from the water that I give you, you'll never thirst. Or you eat the manna, you get hungry again, but I am the bread of life. You'll never hunger again. And all these images are meant to point us to you, because the whole Bible is just about you. It's not about teachings that we follow, but a person that we enjoy. And so, Jesus, we thank you that you didn't give us good advice, you gave us good news. You didn't give us good advice, you gave us good news. We thank you that Christianity is not about the Christian life, it's about you. And so help us to go back to enjoyment of you, enjoyment of your presence, and then joining you in whatever you're trying to do in the world, that we'd look around and see the world through your lens. That we would, as we talked about last week, think about discipleship as what would I look like if you were me, Jesus? Becoming who I would be if you were me. How would I treat enemies, strangers, people that are difficult? If it was your life lived through my body, my week, my workplace, my neighborhood, my friend circles. So Jesus, we just want your life in us. We want your perspective in our heads. We want your heart in our hearts. We want to be able to go, Santa, I know him. Jesus, I really know him. You got to get to know him. He's really awesome. I thank you for my friends here and pray that you would bless every living room, feed, coffee shop, wherever people are tuning in from, that we would truly pass on the person that we're enjoying. We'll talk to you later. Amen. Hey, I got a great question here. An aside. What does it look like for a relationship with Jesus to be the highlight of our day? Like practically, what does it look like in an actual day? All right, so I'd love to hear feedback from you all before I pipe in. What does it look like for a relationship with Jesus to be the highlight of our day? What do you think?
I think sometimes you maybe have to go about it with some intention. I have friends that I know pray together every morning and every night, which is kind of a nice thing in a marriage relationship. And I learned that from them.
Yep. Could you say that one more time, Marcy? Because
Sure.
I got a crew here that was just like, you got your freaking headphones on and we can't hear what you're saying. So if you could take those off.
I just said sometimes I think you have to go about it with intention and maybe make it part of a focus of your day. For example, as an example, I used, I was staying with some friends in Texas recently, and they are very focused every morning and every evening on standing in a circle with whoever's with them and kind of holding hands and saying a prayer as a group. And everyone kind of puts their 2 cents in, which I thought was kind of neat. And sometimes you have to start your day in a certain way, whatever that way may be, and end your day in a certain way in order to have some intention.
Yeah, that's good.
I liked it. That was kind of a takeaway for me. I learned something.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's good. Pausing to pray and sharing it together, because there's a part of the faith journey is not a solo sport, but when you experience God together in community, you're confessing together, you're praying and hearing from God together, oftentimes looking at each other going, I really sense God gave me this word to encourage you. We can really experience God well as a community of people together. That's good. I think for me, I've really come to appreciate just presence with God. And I didn't for a while. I'm a goer. I'm a go, do, move, be with people, start things, go out. And to just sit with God and be still and enjoy the presence of God, right? It's sort of, I'm trying to think of the quote. Mother Teresa said something like this. Someone said, "What is prayer?" And she said, "Prayer is listening to God," right? And then a person's like, "Oh yeah, no, I get it. That's great. So you listen to God. What does God say to you?" And she said, "Nothing. God is listening to me." And they're like, "Wait, so prayer is you listening to God who's listening to you?" And she's like, "Yeah, you wouldn't understand it unless you experienced it." And so I think there's something about just being in the presence of God where if you've experienced it, I've had these moments where most of us don't allow for solitude and just sitting in the presence of God. Most of us are never quieted down. Any like spare second we fill with our cell phones or activity or social media or whatever it is, right? YouTube videos. But I think the ability to just be silent, to remove all the noise and the notifications and all that sort of things. In those moments, I've experienced peace flood over me and joy and clarity that comes from just being in the presence of God, or overwhelming love. But many of us never create that time or space in our day. I think other people, a lot of it can be dependent on our gifting too. I think some people that are more teachers have the Spirit of God teach them through what they read. And so reading is a big part of how they hear from God. I think other people like asking God specific questions. God, what do you want to change about me? What do you want to say to me about me, my life, my family, my work? Asking questions, and then take a walk, take a jog. Some people go nature. Like, I just need to go get alone. Jesus climbed up a mountain. Maybe I need to take a walk in the woods or something, right? Go sit by a body of water. But yeah, I think it isn't necessarily one size fits all. But you see God meeting different people in different ways, depending on how they're gifted or wired. It's really good. I'm seeing an aside here, showing up with the intention of enjoying that time with him. Marriage relationship is a good example. Living in a calm, peaceful, charitable life, reaching out to someone. Yeah, I think that's huge too. Jesus said, whatever you've done to the least of these, you've done to me. I think look around at the world around you and start to see people made in the image of God as the presence of Jesus, like starting to value other people, hearing their voice, listening to their stories, being present with other people. I recently gave up things that don't serve me to bring in things that do. It's good. Yep. So yeah, I would say if you don't pray, practically, not just talking about prayer or not just praying right before a meal, but taking time to sit with God, to ask God specific things about yourself, your life, your family, asking God for direction, for clarity, just taking a walk after you read something and let the Spirit of God connect dots in your mind as you're going. I think prayer is so significant and important. It's the only thing that the disciples asked Jesus to teach them, teach us to pray. It's the only thing they asked Jesus to teach them. And I really feel like at the heart of our faith journey is a prayer journey. And so many of us, that's lacking. In fact, most people would say, I don't know how to pray. People that are in Christian communities are like, I don't know how to pray. The disciple said, I don't know how to pray. But I think at the heart of it, it was John Wesley who said something like, every day I pray for an hour. And then he's like, except for the days that I'm really busy. It's like the days that I'm really busy, I pray for 2 hours. It's like, because then I really need it, because I'm more prone to do something really stupid or react to someone really horribly. And I think, man, that oftentimes the times that I'm burnt out, frustrated, tired, annoyed, agitated, irritable, I really need to go break away and just sit alone with God and let him restore my heart, my soul, my mindset, process and listen. Really, really good stuff. I think also part of it is just understanding that God is always present with us, whether we eat or drink or whatever we do. Like, we're not experiencing God in church, but not experiencing God at the diner or, at the park. God is present everywhere. Yeah, being in constant conversation. That's really good. Sunrise and meditation, really good. Yep. Love all that. Hey, great to see all of you. Hopefully I can see some of you in person next week. If you want to join us at the college. And we'll keep the conversation going and keep the conversation going around tables. Write down some ideas and put them on the idea sharing page too, for what it looks like to really enjoy God together. See you guys. You can feel free to unmute and say bye. Adios.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
Bye. See ya later.
See you guys.
See ya, Marcy.
Bye-bye.
Guys, like, we won't make it next week, but we will see you the following week.
Cool. Sounds good, Jenny. You'll be
Be watching
hosting
from-
following week.
Yeah, we'll be watching from Diane's living room next week.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds
right.
great. Christy, good to see you.
Wow.
Fletcher, good to see you, brother.
I'm sick and I was able to take a day off.
What's that?
The only reason I was able to show up to the meeting is because I had to take a sick day because I was sick.
Hope you feel better, bud.
Yeah, but I'm glad I'm able to watch this for once.
Yeah. We'll connect this week, man. I'll catch you later.
Later.
See you guys. Owens, Leitzels, iPad. See you, iPad. Katie. Happy birthday, Katie. Katie, it's Katie's birthday.